It's 12 p.m. You're not actually hungry. You just glanced at a clock. But some part of your brain just fired off a signal anyway. Lunchtime. You'll probably eat something in the next hour, not because your stomach demanded it, but because a number on a screen told you to. Your stomach might even growl right on cue, almost like it's been trained to, which, as you're about to find out, it actually has. Here's the strange part. For 95% of human existence, nobody on Earth ever did this. No breakfast, no lunch, no dinner. No 3 meals a day schedule at all. Your ancestors ate when food was there and starved when it wasn't, sometimes for days at a time, with no concept of a mealtime whatsoever. So where did this come from? Why does almost every human on the planet now eat in the exact same 3-part pattern, at roughly the exact same times, regardless of whether their body actually needs it? And what does it say about how easily your own biology can be rewired by something as simple as a clock on a wall? Let's start with what eating actually looked like before schedules existed. Anthropological studies of modern hunter-gatherer groups, like the Hadza in Tanzania, show something that completely breaks the 3-meal assumption. There is no fixed eating schedule. People eat when food is available, sometimes grazing throughout the day on small amounts of berries or tubers, sometimes going without any real meal until late afternoon, sometimes eating one large meal after a successful hunt, and then nothing substantial for a day or two afterward. Children eat when they're handed food. Adults eat when they return from foraging with something in hand. Their bodies simply didn't expect food at 8, at noon, and at 6. Hunger arrived based on actual energy need and food availability, not based on the position of the sun matched to a number on a clock face that hadn't even been invented yet. So if 3 meals a day isn't natural, where did it actually come from? The answer starts, strangely, with ancient Rome. Roman writers described a single main meal a day, called cena, taken around midday or early afternoon, with something small in the morning, barely worth mentioning, often just bread. A heavier evening meal was sometimes added later in Roman history, but eating multiple substantial meals throughout the day was actually looked down on in some periods of Roman culture, associated with gluttony and excess, rather than discipline and self-control. Medieval Europe followed a similar pattern in many regions. 1 or 2 meals a day was standard, timed around daylight and labor rather than any fixed clock. For most of recorded history, across most cultures, 1 or 2 meals a day was the norm, not 3, and the specific number 3 carried no particular significance at all. Here's where it gets interesting. The shift toward 3 meals a day accelerated hard during industrialization in 18th and 19th century Europe and America. Factory work demanded fixed shifts, and fixed shifts demanded fixed breaks. If a factory ran from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. with a bell marking every transition, workers needed a predictable break structure, not a flexible eat-when-hungry system that would throw off production schedules and cost the factory owner money. Breakfast before the shift, eaten quickly at home or on the walk to work. A midday meal during a scheduled break, timed by a factory whistle rather than a stomach. Dinner after work ended, the one meal of the day that could actually be relaxed and substantial. This wasn't designed around human biology at all. It was designed around machine schedules and labor efficiency, built to keep an entire workforce synchronized and productive. And it spread fast because it matched the rhythm an increasingly industrial world needed from its workers, whether their bodies were ready for it or not. But scheduling alone doesn't fully explain why the pattern stuck so completely, even for people who don't work factory shifts anymore. This is where your own body enters the story. Human bodies are remarkably good at adapting to whatever rhythm they're repeatedly exposed to, and eating schedules are no exception. Researchers studying circadian rhythms have found that the body develops anticipatory hunger, meaning if you consistently eat at noon every day for weeks, your stomach will start producing hunger hormones like ghrelin right around noon, whether or not you actually need calories at that moment. Your body isn't reading your energy levels anymore. It's reading the clock, because the clock is what it learned to trust. This is the first reason the pattern persists: hormonal conditioning. Ghrelin, the hormone responsible for hunger signals, rises and falls in a learned pattern based on repeated exposure to meal timing, not purely on caloric need. Studies tracking ghrelin levels throughout the day have found clear spikes timed almost exactly to a person's habitual meal times, even on days when that person skips the meal entirely.
Eat at the same 3 times daily for long enough, and your body essentially trains itself to expect fuel at those exact windows, creating hunger that feels completely real and completely biological, even though its root cause is habit rather than genuine energy deficit. The second reason is social synchronization. Meals became more than fuel. They became coordinated social events: family dinners, workplace lunch breaks, business breakfasts, first dates over dinner rather than breakfast. Eating together at set times reinforces social bonds and cultural rhythm in a way that grazing throughout the day never could. A shared 6 p.m. dinner lets a family exist in the same room at the same time, in a world that otherwise pulls everyone in different directions all day. 3 meals became less about biology and more about maintaining a shared social clock across an entire society. The third reason, and possibly the most powerful one, is that food industries built entire systems around the 3-meal structure once it existed. Cereal companies built breakfast into something essential rather than optional. Fast food chains built entire menus and marketing campaigns around the lunch rush. Dinner became the anchor meal of advertising, sitcoms, and family culture throughout the 20th century. Once 3 meals became the default assumption, massive industries had every incentive to reinforce it rather than question it, because a predictable eating pattern is also a wildly profitable one. Here's the thing, though. Your body doesn't actually need this structure to survive, or even to function well. Intermittent fasting research, along with direct observation of hunter-gatherer populations, shows that humans handle irregular eating patterns just fine, sometimes better in terms of metabolic markers. The 3-meal pattern isn't a biological requirement. It's closer to a deeply ingrained cultural habit that your hormones have been trained to reinforce, which is why breaking the pattern, skipping a meal, eating at unusual times, initially feels uncomfortable, even when your body has plenty of stored energy to draw on. This is honestly a small window into something much bigger about being human. Your ancestors survived by eating opportunistically, adapting completely to whatever the environment offered on any given day. Somewhere along the way, first through cultural norms, then through industrial scheduling, then through hormonal conditioning and corporate reinforcement, that flexibility got replaced with a rigid structure so deeply embedded that most people never even question where it came from. Your body, remarkably, went along with it, rewiring its own hunger signals to match a schedule that has nothing to do with biology and everything to do with factory shifts from 3 centuries ago. So the next time noon rolls around and you feel that familiar pull toward lunch, notice it for what it actually is. Sometimes just an echo, faint but persistent, of a Roman dinner custom, a factory whistle from 3 centuries ago, a hormone that learned its own timing from repetition rather than real need, and a marketing campaign or 2 layered on top for good measure. All of it dressed up convincingly enough that it feels exactly like hunger. Because in a very real sense, at this point, it is hunger. Just not the kind your body was originally built to run on.